Last year, I hit $1.1 million in my coaching business and worked with 540 clients. But guess what? I did it with less than 700 followers on Instagram, 561 connections on LinkedIn, and really peanuts worth of people on Facebook and TikTok. So the question is, how did I do this? And more importantly, can you do this as a coach? And should you do this as a coach? Well, in this episode, I'm going to share the answer to all of those questions along with talking about generating a following. Most importantly, I'm going to share why you don't need a massive following to succeed in your coaching business. But first, just a little hello to the people who are new to my videos and the channel. What's up? I'm Coach Andrew, and I help health coaches and fitness business owners build their brand online. And I do that by finding their tribe and helping them sell through service. So now that you know who I am, let's dive right into the video by starting with debunking the big audience myth. You see, there's a lot of common misconceptions, especially in the coaching industry, where people think that they need to have this giant audience. They need to have 30 or 50,000 followers in order for them to get enough paying clients to actually build a career in coaching. And I'm prime example of this. I don't have a large following. I'll put up some pictures now as a part of the video. And this is current as I'm filming this episode. I have in total, with the combination of all my platforms, less than I'd say 4,000 people. So really, you don't actually need a big audience in order for you to generate leads, in order for you to actually get sales, because what matters is not a big audience. What matters is having loyal followers, people who are actually going to build this know, like, and trust factor with you in order to then buy from you. That's ultimately the biggest thing. Is if you have an audience of 100 or 200 people, are these hardcore, dedicated, and die-hard followers that are actually going to want to join your programs? And this is kind of the difference between the word and the word I said audience and then the word of followers. Like, audience is exactly as it says. Audience are a bunch of people who are always looking, and they're happy to continue to look as long as it's free, as long as there's no commitment. And they may, engage a little bit, liking a couple things. They might drop a comment. And the key with an audience is an audience will definitely stay silent because they're just watching you. That's exactly what an audience does. They're not going to contribute in any way. They're definitely not going to go out of their way to join a program or to work with you as a coach. What they're doing is they're just looking and staying engaged because there's content. Now, like having a large audience says, like, those people are probably audiences for other coaches. And this is where you can have a lot of different coaches or a lot of people who have these giant audiences, 100K followers, 250K followers, and they don't actually generate any money from it. And I'm sure you've seen some of those kind of, like, especially on Instagram, those, I would call them almost like bot followers, where people will build almost like a story, and then they'll have like a Minecraft playing at the back of it, and it's like a meaningless video but words just to keep a story going. And a lot of people follow those accounts to hear these very interesting stories, but no revenue is generated from that, and there's no really engagement because there's nothing to engage with. And that's completely different than something called followers. Followers is effectively a group of people who believe in you, who believe in your brand, who feel that what you are providing to the world is valuable, and they want to be in your world. So when I follow a specific coach, when I follow my mentors like I did in my past before I went and actually hired them, I said to myself, wow, this person is living the life that I'm looking to live. They're doing the things that I'm looking to do. I love the way that they do them. They're doing them in a way that's really in alignment with me. And so I'm going to follow this person. I'm going to start to focus on how I can be closer to them in their world before I actually go and hire them. And that's exactly what a follower does. A follower buys and follows you because they are all in on who you are. And if we take a look at that as a principle, if someone is going to buy from you because they know, like, and trust you, and they're going to follow you because they value who you are as a person, do you really need 100,000 followers? Or like me, are you okay with less than 1,000 followers, but 30 or 40% of those people are going to convert over year after year? So the reality of building an audience versus building a following is, like, you can generate consistent income with a smaller amount of followers on your feeds as long as the followers there are well targeted, they're loyal, and they have built trust with you. Now, when it comes to building this small, high level pool of trust, this comes down to quality over quantity when it comes to leads versus masked followers. So when I share with you guys that I built a $1.1 million business, we hit that and I'll pop open the numbers there on the video. All of this came from less than 700 people. And at that time, I think I had slightly above 500 people on the followers, especially for Instagram. Now, the majority of my leads come from, of course, our YouTube channel, which is why I create YouTube videos. They come from Instagram, where they'll reach out and they'll DM me and say, hey, what's it like to work with you as a coach? And then they also come from my business Facebook page as well, but we run more ads to that. And I would only recommend that you run ads like when you're past like a 30K a month mark, because there's just a lot of trial and error with that. But I don't have a large following. But the key with this is with every single piece of content that I put on my feed, on my socials, with every single webinar that I host, I'm specifically targeting and speaking to a very high level coach, to a coach who wants to be unique, who wants to be different, to the coaches who are done using copy and paste funnel systems that want to go all in on their business, but want to do so in a way that aligns with them. And so as I start talking about how I can travel and do my business and how I can not have to hop on consults and get people to sign up in the DMs, those high level and like-minded coaches are listening to my message. They're looking at the life that I live. They're watching and liking and commenting on all the places that I travel. And ultimately, they're going to say, hey, how can I build a life like that? And that's what's going to connect them to me. Now, just like this kind of high quality, low amount of people following is really about connectivity, by me being very specific with my message, by me only focusing on a certain sector or amount of coaches in this area that want to travel, that want to build an online business and want to do so with an authentic way of marketing, I am also pushing away, and I'm doing this on purpose, followers who never interact, followers who aren't going to hire me as a coach, who want to have a copy and paste script, who want to have a done for you message because they believe more in the, hey, I just want to be a copy of another coach versus building my own movement and my own method. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But in pushing those people away, what happens is my pool becomes very unique. And there's a level of personal connection that you see in my brand, that you see in these videos. And people, especially coaches who are like, I love that personability. I love the sarcasm. I love the kind of like, I don't give a shit attitude. They're going to really align with who I am as a person. And that's what's going to make them want to, I was going to say want to work out with me, want to work with me. You can work out with me too, I guess. I haven't made any videos on that, but want to work with me as a coach inside of their business. So with a smaller audience, it's easier for you to provide something that's like a personalized experience and actually take the time to nurture and deepen those relationships. So when someone reaches out to me and they say, hey, I would love to learn about coaching options, they're getting me. I'm going to send them a personal message back. I'm going to send them a personal video back. I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions because my process of being unique and being different is not about putting you with the salesperson that all of a sudden you're just another number. It's I actually really want to get to know you. And especially now coming into 2025, people really value personal connection. Personal connection has been something that's been lost over the past couple of years, not just through COVID, but largely through people just wanting to film a bunch of videos in their backyard and not really engage with people. And this is where you as a coach have the opportunity to like step in and lean into this personal connection. This is also where you can do things like weekly lives, but when someone hops on a live, you can do something bold like invite them onto the live, have them ask questions, answer, just show up and give. This level of personal connection means that the person watching you is like, oh wow, when I'm with this person, I actually receive value and there's no connections attached. I'm not just part of 100,000 followers where this person doesn't know my name. This person is seeing me, they're speaking to me. And so that, if I like the person itself, I'm going to want to support them, which means eventually in the future, I'm going to want to make them my coach. Now, a big part of having a smaller audience is about niching down. You have to niche down for better conversion. And this all comes down to the specific demographic that you're serving. So, in order for a small audience and a small following to work, you really have to be specific with who you help as a coach. It's not enough to be like, I help people with weight loss. Honestly, tons of people do. You have to get really specific. Is it busy moms? Is it women over 40? Is it CrossFit enthusiasts? Is it people who have trauma who want to get back into being fit? The more specific you can become, the easier it is for you to become the go-to expert for that group. And when you become the go-to expert, as an example, my wife Lorna, she is a binge eating coach. She helps people heal their relationship with food, but she does so by rewiring their brain. So it's not about going on or off for a diet for her. She has a process, a method that helps people rewire their brain. And so not only is that very different, it's very unique and it's a different way of approaching binge eating and the relationship with food. Now, she only works with women because she used to struggle with binge eating herself. So for a woman looking to do something different and unique in binge eating, they know not only is it different, her method, but also at the same time she's gone through the process, so she knows what that feels like, and she only works with women, which means that I'm going to get an exclusive amount of help. So she positioned herself as the go-to expert for that group. And me, when I had my hormone coaching company, I did the same thing. I was the hormone helper. I help people balance their hormones naturally with food. That was my difference. And because I solely focused on the food piece to heal hormones, and I didn't encourage things like medication, and I encouraged things like a healthier, more active way of living, people who had hormonal issues were like, I want to be off the medication. I don't want to have to go to the naturopath over and over again. And so if I can do this with food, then that makes sense to me. So when we start to niche down, then sure, we're going to be pushing away followers because guess what? Not everyone is going to fall in line with that niche, but those people who are inside that niche are like, oh, this is the person that helps specifically me, which is going to be better for conversion later on. Now, a big piece when it comes to niching down. Reality is you're either first or you're different, and you can't be both. What I mean by that is like when you are focusing on a niche, there are other people who are focusing and working towards the same niche. So if you are not the first person, as in the first coach to develop a certain method or to develop a certain diet or do something completely new, then it's okay to show that you're doing the same thing as another coach. But this is where you lean into being different. This is where you have to change your messaging and change the way you're talking about it so you can get a higher amount of conversion rate with people that are inside of your niche. Because remember, you're not the only coach out there doing this. There are other coaches fighting for the same attention. So with this, it's largely about being different because I can promise you, even I'm not first. Like I teach a lot of the tools that Russell Brunson has and that Alex Hormozy has. And these tools are very effective, but I teach them in a different way. I come from being more of an authentic coach of just showing up who you are, not worrying about having polished content, focusing on the message and the value instead of, all of the ways that you cut and clip your content. So that way people can actually like resonate and be in alignment with you. That's how I show up. So by me being different, and I kind of like to call myself like a green sheep coach. I'm not white sheep or black sheep. Like I'm not doing the opposite of what people are doing. I'm carving my own path. That fosters like a big, strong resonance for me, and it translates into trust. When people trust me more as a coach, when they see how I show up every day consistently, I get more signups even though I have few followers. And it's confusing to people because they look at my social media and they go, well, you have a very large coaching company. Shouldn't you have a larger following? And my question always becomes like, why? Why do I need to have all of these people follow me when I can have the right people follow me? Now, a big key with this, especially after you niche down, is like you have to have authentic content, and this involves engaging and showing your human side. This is not just about sharing the tools and the tips, because having a small following, that's not going to be enough. People are not going to get enough value from tools and tips to be able to actually take action on your programs. This is where you have to show who you are as a person. Share behind the scenes what's involved in coaching people, what's involved in working with people. Share case studies, the way that your clients have transformed through the process. Share testimonials. Have your clients come on lives so that way you can highlight real life results and show people what it's like to go through your process. At the end of the day, once they've watched probably I'd say 10 or 12 of your videos or they've read through your piece of content, for the most part, your audience is going to have an idea of whether you're credible or not. If they think you're credible, great, they're going to continue to watch you. If they don't, then guess what? They're going to unfollow you and they're going to leave. But a large part of why people buy is for you to be able to put who they are inside of your story and your messaging. So that way, even with a smaller following, they're like, oh, like this person gets me. He's speaking right to me. And this is where you can use the testimonials and highlight real life results through this. Now, the key to using and really leveraging a small following is consistency. You have to post regularly and you have to engage in conversations. Because if I'm just posting, but every time someone provides feedback, I'm not engaging in that, then I'm not really giving trust. What I'm showing people is there's a barrier between, oh, you can work with me and you have to pay me to do that. And I guess if you want to create that barrier or form of exclusivity, you can. But with a smaller following, it just means that you're not going to get as many sales as opposed to creating those conversations. So you want to focus on generating more trust than having large numbers and passive followers. Now, a big part of having a small following is about storytelling. You have to have relatable stories and you've got to share a little bit of kind of your personal life to captivate a small audience and show them like what it is like to be in your world. What are your values? What are your morals? How do you live day to day? How do you show up outside of being just a coach? Because remember, people want to work with people who are like them. So when I go to hire a coach, for an example, I just hired a speaking coach and he's a phenomenal member. I love the fact that he's a very logical person, that he's no BS, that he's kind of straightforward like me, but he's really sarcastic. He can be really funny. He's very lighthearted. And I like that about him. I like the fact that we align in the way that we coach, which is really great. But a bigger thing for me is I love how he shows things like traveling all the time and going for runs all the time. Like I'm a big runner and I love to travel. So when I line up with all of the things that he does day to day, it's also easier for me to line up with his messaging and the way he coaches. So it's about being relatable as a coach and not just sharing what's going inside of your program or what are the tools that people have to work with day to day, but really just like who you are as a person. And that's more effective than doing something like providing generic content for a huge crowd. Now, the key with the content, especially with a small audience, is you really have to focus on providing value. And there are two things that are directly attached to this. When coaches are really obsessed about building an audience, they really focus on building income versus the coach who's focusing on delivering value, focused on showing up to their followers, they're focused on creating an impact. I will tell you firsthand, your income is directly affected by the amount of impact that you make for these people. So this is where when I talked about earlier, not sharing the tools and the tips and all the BS knowledge and really gatekeeping, you really have to provide and show up 110% for these people. That's not just posting 3 times a day, every day with generic content. That is really speaking to their pain points, really understanding on the client journey or the client experience where they're struggling and where they need support with, and being ready and available to provide that to them, to show up and say, hey, here's what I have to offer to deal with this specific problem, to show people that you actually know the entire process of this journey. So providing value is about providing really, really specific high level content instead of focusing on just creating an income. Coaches who want a large following that just want to make more money, when they're focusing on an income, they're going to find that after that 15 to 20K a month mark, they're going to get a huge halt to how much money they make. And that's because people feel disconnected with their message and they don't feel that they as a coach are genuine. They're like, hey, look, I'm looking at your content every single day and I don't feel it from you. I don't feel like you're the right person for me. I don't feel like you get me. And sure, you look really credible, but you're not exactly speaking to me. And focusing on the money is really just treating people like a number, which is kind of what you're doing with an audience, versus if you choose to focus on the impact and you say to yourself, I don't care what my follow count is, I don't care how many views I get on a post, I'm going to wake up every day and focus on what my clients need to hear. I'm going to create content and say, what do my clients need to hear every single day? And that, as a coach, is what I focus on when I'm helping other coaches grow their business. I wake up and I say, what are my coaches doing? So, as an example of this YouTube video, I'm having a lot of coaches inside of our coach to coach program say, like, I feel like I'm trying to build this really, really big following. Like, I need followers, I need people, I need views. And I'm like, but why do you need those things? And they're like, I don't know. I just feel like it would make me more money. No, focus on making impact, and more money's going to come with that. And the right followers are going to come with that. So be ready to show up every single day as a coach and step into the coach who you are. Don't be afraid to hold back any impact or any part of your life because it can potentially impact them. So the more you give and impact someone's life, the more you're going to make, because impact is directly related to the income. Now, a big thing about having a small following, and this is a really, really big benefit of having a small following, is you get to do what's called relationship-based selling. This is basically authority-based selling. So instead of having these cold pitches or these consults where you're dealing with the script, you get to just invite someone on a call, or you can just have a conversation in the DM, and you're really just trying to see where they're at. It's really a conversation, or they're just doing a cold pitch. And the conversation kind of goes like this: hey, thanks for reaching out. Like, what inspired you to send me over a message? What's going on? How can I help? And then when the person, because they know you on a personal level, they open up and they share real, you say, hey, look, based off of where you are, like, what do you feel the challenges are, the struggles are? And this is where you can really just almost show up like as a friend, which is what you should be doing when you're coaching, and you start to serve. You start to ask, how can I help? What support do you need? And based off of that, you make a recommendation instead of doing a cold hard pitch because you don't have any trust. You see, the reason why people with large audiences have to do things like really, really high scripted funnels or high scripted consult calls is because you have no trust with this person. When you have no trust over a cold lead, this means that you have to pre-qualify and you have to objection handle before objections come up. So this is where the scripts come into play, or the funnels come into play. Someone really cold doesn't know you. You have to do these certain things in the funnel to get them to take action a little bit so they can know you quickly. And then on the call, you have to say specific questions in order to address the objections. So when you do make the offer at the end, there's no objections left. That is cold selling. That's the reality of it. You have to address those things. Otherwise, you're going to get them after you ask for the sale. But when you're in a relationship, when people know how you operate, when they know what's in your program because you've been talking about it all the time, then really the conversation is completely different. I get to show up just like I would with my friend and say, hey, what do you need? What's going on? How can I help? Here's what I'd recommend. Let's get started. And it can really be that simple. The other benefit of having a small following and having kind of this high level of trust inside your group is you can have a high touch approach with a small following. This enables you to do more personal interactions. So I talked about it a little earlier, things like voice notes, personalized videos, live Q&As. All of these things are great to add your personal touch to show people that you are different than the general coaches out there who don't have the time to do that. When you have 100,000 followers or 200,000 10,000 followers, you cannot message everyone personally because you might be getting 50 to 60 reach outs a day versus if you're having 5 to 10 a day, but they're the right people, you can always give them a personal message, even if you have something like a group program or a self-paced program. And really, I can tell you something. When I switched, because I was someone who used to, from ads and stuff, do only cold sales. When I switched to high touch approach, my conversion rate and the sign up rate shot through the roof. I used to have like a 65% conversion rate, which is still kind of high because I learned how to do the objection handling and stuff. But when I switched to high touch point sales, we have an 85% close rate. And some coaches in their businesses are like, wow, that's a big number. And it is, but it also isn't if you're treating everybody like their friend. If they hop on a call or hop on the DMs and they're like, hey, before I ask you a couple questions, I just want to share. I've been listening to your podcast for a year. I really appreciate everything that you've been giving to me, and you've made a huge difference in my life. Like, what do you think the quality of our conversation changes? What do you think the level of objections are going to come up? They're not, because these people, they've already been warmed up. So these little personal interactions that you can do with a smaller audience and following, like the voice notes, the personalized videos, and the live Q&As, make a big difference to making a large impact for those people and getting more sign-ons. Now, a little kind of, I'd say, sideline benefit of having a small audience is you get a lot of referrals and word of mouth. You see, people who are a part of a tribe, people who are part of an exclusive group and feel like they're unique, are really excited to share your stuff with other people. I can't tell you the amount of referrals that I've gotten over the span of 8 years of coaching because people loved being in my community, they loved being in my following, and they were excited to share and invite other people there. And this is where you know you're going to get another like minded client because typically people refer like minded people. Referrals, you don't really have to vet because they're relying on the trust of the person referring, and that only happens when the person referring has a high level of trust in you. So it's really easy for you to have a few clients, something like 10 or 15 clients from a small following that can quickly multiply your client base through an authentic recommendation or an authentic referral. Now, the key with having a small following, in order for this to really work and work well, you've got to have a couple of things. So the first thing is you have to leverage kind of what I call value packed offers and a proper program design. So when it comes to your packages, this is really tailoring your coaching to the specific needs of your audience rather than casting a wide net. So as an example, going back to when I had my hormone coaching business, I wouldn't just tell people like, hey, I can help you with weight loss of up to 30 pounds. I could, but that's too generic and that's not specific enough for the niche that I created. So when I went and I created a program, I created a 16-week program specifically designed to help stabilize someone's hormones, remove their IBS, decrease their estrogen, elevate their testosterone, and improve their thyroid. It was that specific. So when people came, they knew exactly what was inside that program and they knew what they were getting. Now, a huge piece of having this offer that's very specific is you want to have a main program. This isn't about, especially with a small audience, it's not about selling multiple different programs because you never really take off financially that way. It's about having one core offer, filling it, being intentional with who you fill it with. So this is called kind of like filling the container of your program. And then as that program starts to build, you can then start to ask people, hey, what else do you need support with? And build a program off of that. So I always have a main flagship program. So as an example, inside of the coach to coach program, our coach to coach program is the foundational program. Sure, I have other programs. There's client converting content. There's value stack funnel system. There's fast launch. There's no BS sales. Those are smaller level programs, but they actually came from the fruition of filling coach to coach first. Because if I do not have a tried, tested, and true offer, there's no way that I can convert a small audience and actually build a sustainable business off of it. So think about it this way. If we're looking at, let's say your program is $3,000 in terms of coaching, whatever that is, maybe it's a group container, doesn't matter. If you've got 100 people in your following, and you say to them, okay, you know what, 10%, which is a very low number for a high quality following to convert. So you have 10 people to convert at $3,000. That's $30,000. And if you did that every single month, month over month, that's a fundamentally different style business. But the offer has to be crystal clear because your following is very unique and it's very small and it's very specialized. You need to have an offer that matches that uniqueness, that specialization, and that dedication to serving that single client as opposed to casting a wider net. And I know that feels counterintuitive because you're like, well, if I have a program that can help with more, I'll attract more people. But that goes back to the audience thing. You're going to start speaking to everybody, which means you're speaking to nobody. Now, once you have kind of this main flagship program, this is where you have to then maximize a smaller following with upsells and continuity. So, what I mean by that is continuity. There we go. So, you don't need a huge audience if you have a well structured offer suite. So, as an example, Coach to Coach has three phases. We have our introductory phase, in which someone is basically learning the fundamental tools to scale past 30K. Then we have C2C A2, which is basically our advanced 2 up program. This is where people will come in and they'll start working on specific individual problems one on one with me. And then there's a third level as well that nobody's in yet. But when I'm looking at my offer suite, even when I had hormone coaching, I had our Vantage program, which was phase one, 16 weeks. I had our Advantage program, which was an 8 month ascension program. After they've balanced their hormones, let's work on some of the more specialized issues like digestion, weight loss, all of that. And then we had a third level program, which was basically our phase three accountability only, where if someone knew the tools but just wanted to stay plugged into the community, they had the ability to be able to do that. Then we had our hormone reboot program, which was for people who maybe if they need just a refresher for the hormones, they could hop into it. Because my offer suite was so well planned and I knew how my audience was going to convert into each one, our average client stayed for about 2.5 years, which meant that if I have a small audience, even if I only converted 10 people, those 10 people would be with me for an average of 2.5 years, not 6 weeks or 12 weeks like traditional coaches. So you need to have a way with a smaller audience to upsell by having a well structured offer suite and a way for people to continue to stay in your world. Ultimately, this really comes down to if you've got a small following, you've got to focus on client retention. Like an engaged small group stays longer, they invest in higher price offerings. Like think of yourself. If you are going to sell to yourself, as a coach, when I invest in a mentor and I like the mentor, I want to continue to work with them. So if they continue to offer me different containers, different programs, different trainings that I can learn from them, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that because I like who they are. I've already seen a huge amount of value. And so it's going to be easy for me to say yes to that. So people who have already invested in you want to invest more as long as you have offerings in different ways to do that. Now, a big benefit about working with the client retention with having a small following is you have what's called recurring revenue. A lot of coaches don't talk about this. And in my eyes, it is the thing that really guarantees you making multiple six figures. Is like I struggled from 0 to 15K month over month, just trying to hustle to get really like upfront cash. And then it was a mentor of mine who was like, dude, how come you don't have any reoccurring revenue? And I was like, I don't know, honestly. And this is where if you get people who are willing to commit to themselves, and guess what? A small audience that is high value, that is a tribe, that is your follower, will want to stay with you for longer. You can commit people for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. And because of that, you can have them on payment plans where money is coming in month over month, where you're not worried about where you're going to get the next sale, because even something like 25 clients in a container can have 30 to 35,000 recurring revenue without you having to worry about looking for another person. And this is where successful coaches have containers where recurring revenue is high. They invest that recurring revenue in things like ads or things like better social media or better content. And then the following starts to grow. They start to focus on following more people, knowing that they have dedicated groups and dedicated clients in their programs and their systems long term. Now, the big thing about having a small following is you have to position yourself as an authority. And this comes down to your expertise over vanity metrics. So what I mean by that is like you've got to show your knowledge through consistent content, but you also have to provide things like webinars, live trainings, and show your success stories because people, it's not enough for them to absorb who you are as a coach 45 seconds at a time. You've got to offer opportunities for them to get into your world an hour at a time, 3 hours at a time. Like a great example is I have next week from January 13th to the 16th, I have Goal Get It, the 4-day experience. I've been talking about that in the past couple episodes, but it's an hour to an hour and a half training, 4 days in a row. Everything from setting goals as a coach, creating content as a coach, being able to sell from service and how to be able to have upsells and add-ons, all of that stuff I'm doing over 4 days. Now, if you're a coach who's like not familiar with me or who is new in my world, it could be easy for you to become a follower very quickly if you join that and you go, wow, I received a shit ton of value from Andrew. But the only way that that can happen is if I were to offer that to you. So one, hey, join. I'm gonna drop the link below, of course, in the description. But the big thing is like if you don't know that there is something else that you can be in my world for longer, or things like the YouTube channel, or things like a podcast, all of these things is long form content which you can live in someone's ear, live in someone's head, and in their heart, and they can get closer and closer to you. Now, the big thing when it comes to a small following is I would say you want to leverage collaboration. So if you want to keep your following small, like me, you don't want something really giant, and you only want like-minded people in your world, how I get newer leads and how I get really intimate people to follow me in smaller amounts is collaboration. I do guest appearances on podcasts. I do collaborations with other coaches. Like I did recently an episode with a coach who just does marketing. So pay-per-click marketing, Facebook ads, all of that stuff. She doesn't really create any content. And so I hopped on her podcast, talked about content creation, and the people who want an authentic message as well as want pay-per-click ads, well, guess what? They're probably going to start to look at the YouTube channel in my podcast, and they're going to start to maybe become a follower of mine. Alongside that, you can also do speaking gigs. Like speaking gigs can boost a large amount of credibility without having a large social following. I built a significant amount of my business on speaking, where I've spoken with companies, gotten direct clients, where I've spoken for coaches on panels and gotten coaches to come and have me as their coach. And all of that is because it's just spending time with them. When I'm in front of someone and they get to know, like, and trust me, and they get to learn how I operate and I don't know, see how funny I am. I guess maybe I'm not funny, but I like to believe that I'm hilarious. It's like they get this level of excitement and recognition that it's like, hey, I can actually see myself with Coach Andrew every single day. And that's exactly maybe a question that you should be asking yourself. You should say to yourself, if I were to speak to my audience right now, if I were to pull 10 random people from my audience, are they going to say, I feel like I know you, I feel like I know what it's like to live in your world, or are they going to have questions? Are they going to question what you do day to day? Are they going to question how you live your life day to day, what you eat, what you buy? You want people to know as much about you as possible. As much as you're willing to share, as much as you're willing to connect with people, that's what's going to allow them to buy into who you are as a coach. So collaboration is a great way to be able to maximize building your business without having this kind of huge or massive following. Now that I've kind of gone into why having a small following is really beneficial, I want to showcase some practical tips and kind of next steps that you can do to start building trust now. Because trust is something that, guess what, does take time. You're not going to build trust with someone over 2 or 3 days. Here's the important thing when it comes to trust. trust from a coach to a coach is different than trust from a coach to a client. And a lot of coaches don't understand this. You're saying to yourself, how come my clients don't buy like me? How come my clients take a longer amount of trust or time to trust than I take the amount of time to trust in my coach? Here's why. As coaches, we have a really high level of awareness. Our level of awareness is so big that it's easy for us to understand what we're missing. It's easy for us to understand when we connect with someone because we have a high level of intuition and we take action right away. But the majority of your following are just regular clients. These people may not have a solid intuition. They may have been burned by other coaches before. They may be afraid of what the process of coaching is. And so it is going to take a little bit of time to build trust with these people. So this means that you're going to have to start building trust today. You want to be posting weekly content that addresses your specific pain points for your clients, and you want to be able to show them ways that it can get them quick wins. Not cheap wins, like wins that don't stay, but quick wins where if they do something and they see a result, they say, well, if all of the stuff in, Coach Andrew's content actually worked for me and I saw positive stuff from it, then imagine what it would be like to be in his world. And then the other big thing is you want to focus on genuine conversations in your social media. So use social media to start one-on-one connections, not just to rack up likes. You want to say, hey, shoot a comment down below. Let me know what you think, like I do in these videos here. What's one or two things that you take away? I want you guys to engage because I want to know what is important to you, and then I want to share with you. So encourage the conversations to appear because having a small audience means that you have the ability to actually message and follow up on those things. And then the most important thing, start celebrating small wins. Share your client testimonials, share your case studies, share your personal breakthroughs because this reinforces your credibility regardless of your follower. So at the end of the day, guys, like having a small following equals big opportunities. An engaged smaller group can be a gold mine for the right offer if you're building a lot of value up front, if you are focusing on providing an impact instead of making an income, and if you're just showing up as the authority that I know you can be as a coach. And a big thing as well too, action beats perfection on this. Like if you spent the same amount of time doubling down on nurturing the followers you already have, you're going to have more clients rather than obsessing over reaching some random number of what your follower count is. Now, if you want your coaching to succeed in the next decade, there's reality is there's value in building deep relationships and there's value in delivering consistently so you can position yourself as the go-to expert for your niche. So before we wrap up this video here, before it gets too long for you guys, I want to invite you to the Go Get It 4-day experience. And that's happening, like I said, next week. I can't believe it's next week already, January 13th to the 16th. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it because over these 4 days, I'm going to be sharing the exact strategies that my clients are using to stand out in the 2025 coaching world without resorting to the traditional copy-paste funnels or sales scripts that you had from like 2002. Let's face it, old methods don't cut it anymore. Okay, you can't have low ticket offers that drag out upsells. You can't over rely on ads because that's not really true audience connection. Sales scripts, they come off inauthentic anymore, and this is really about stepping into who you are as a coach. It will help you set goals that align with your vision. It'll help you build a revenue runway that'll help create consistent income, and it will help you master authentic sales that feel natural. Bottom line, it'll help you create client converting content, which in my eyes is the foundation of your K gateway for your business. Now, if you're ready to make 2025 your best year, then you can DM me Goal Get It on Instagram, or you can check the link in the description for all the details. Your reoccurring revenue runway starts here. Let's build it together, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye.